Well, good evening. Good evening. Good evening to everyone on this Friday night. Hope that your day has been outstanding. Hope
Mhm.
that your families are doing okay. Welcome once again to the Up My People podcast that is being seen and heard live right now on so many different platforms. And on tonight, we feel like that every platform should be visible tonight because really don't want to waste too much time because it seems like every time that we come on this podcast, it is become very critical.
Mhm.
And every time we've been on, it's been because of a critical stage. And I don't think, well, I mean, we just have to stay tuned. But tonight, it is heightened to the highest level as far as we are concerned. Many of you know what's going on in our nation when it comes to uh, redirecting maps and all that type of stuff, and that's what we're here for. We are pretty good. I don't want to brag on myself, but I know that Dr. Bill Adkins is a tremendous preacher, great teacher, uh, great soldier. But one of the things that he has taught me is that there's life after Sunday. And in order to become a real pastor, you have to really care for the people's souls on an everyday basis. That's why this podcast was made up, and we're talking about your everyday living. And on tonight, I think that you guys that are coming in, it would be beneficial for you tonight for you to share. Let's start this off right. I think that we need to share because of what is being said on tonight. I hope you guys will pray for us because, as we've said on just about every show, that listen, we're watchmen on the wall, and when you're a watchman on the wall, you see some good things and see some bad things, and we're here tonight to report that we are seeing some bad things happening, and we're gonna talk about it. We're gonna stretch our voice out as far as it could go, so you guys would help us tremendously if you would share rather quickly. We want
Yeah.
everybody to know what's going on. And of course, as I always say, listen, this is a privilege for me to be on this same screen with my pastor, amen. My guy, my fraternity brother, my almost one my dad, another second dad.
Mhm.
It's a privilege to be with him tonight. And we're gonna talk about this thing tonight about this redirection. What does it mean? What does it really mean for us? And there's no one better that I think that can explain it better than him. And so tonight, I hope you listen. If you want to take some pens and pencils out and get some notes, listen. This might be a good time to do it on tonight as we talk about this tonight. I just want to go ahead and preface this before I turn it over to our pastor, Dr. Bill Atkins. I guess set the tone a little bit. Listen, we're mad.
Hmm.
We're mad. We're mad. Now we ain't gonna, we gonna be what we are, but we're a little upset, and so that's what I want to start it off that way. Go ahead and enjoy yourself, Dr. Atkins. Great to have you with us on
Thank you.
tonight
Thank you
again.
so much, Bishop. Thank you so much. Listen, just a point of reference. I graduated from high school in the year 1965. So you can do the math on my age if you'd like. That was the year that the Voting Rights Act was signed by Lyndon Baines Johnson with Martin Luther King Jr. sitting by his side. At that point, that was the greatest championship in the struggle of civil rights that we have seen since Reconstruction, since the end of slavery, since the Emancipation Proclamation. That bill meant everything to us. The year before, the Civil Rights Bill, 1964, was signed, but Dr. King insisted that we needed a Voting Rights Act to protect the vote, to ensure that Black people would have the right to vote without having to take tests or guess how many beans are in a jar or
Wow.
how long a banana is, stupid things, or pay poll taxes, things that were devised to keep us from voting, that kept my grandmother in Greenwood, Mississippi from voting. They
Yeah.
told her she had to pass a test to to vote. Some of you may not be aware of how difficult it was. Maybe you don't know the history, and I'm going to get into that in a minute. But never did I dream in all of my years that I would see America go backwards as we have in the last week, 2 weeks.
Wow.
Never did I dream that I would see this kind of racism that I thought we had put back in the closet and locked the door on it.
Yeah.
But in the previous administration of Donald Trump, he opened that door. He sprung that door open and made it easy for people who had racist feelings to openly express their racist feelings. So before that, people were a little bit hesitant about letting people know exactly how they felt about something.
Yeah.
But Trump unlocked the door, and with his dog whistle, we talk about, dog whistle is silent.
Mm-hmm.
You can't hear it, but people that are tuned into it can hear it. And people like the Ku Klux Klan, the National Nazis, the Proud Boys, various militia groups, racist groups, heard the dog whistle and knew that it was time for them to come out of the darkness, out of the closet. The Klan reemerges again. And now we have overt racism as it was in the 50s. In the 50s. And make no mistake, my brothers and sisters, please, 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 don't let anybody confuse you. This is all about black and white. This is racial. Everything, they're not going to say it, but this is it. It's racial. They have learned how to be racist while pretending not to be racist. But you don't listen to what they say, you watch what they do. Now, and what they're doing are very racist things. Let's get to the point. Trump told Governor Bill Lee to attack Memphis and split Memphis up because it was too large of a black voting bloc. Bill Lee responded with his yes, sir, massa, whatever, and did it. And now we have a city that is 62 to 65% African American.
Yes.
That was a Democratic voting bloc representing all of these black people, over 600,000 people in Memphis. No telling God knows how many black people in all the area. But the point was, we have been disenfranchised. Literally. Our district has been split up into 3 districts just so that we won't have the majority vote. So Bill Lee and his Republicans divided Memphis, District 9, up into 3 separate districts, whereas one district would go almost 200 miles east toward the Kentucky border. Now imagine this, a district that large. Imagine this now. Just to get enough white people in the district to outvote Memphis, and that was the goal. Make it pimp, let's make it plain. To get enough white people in the district to outvote Memphis, they had to go 200 miles of rural country, pull them in. And then they had to go center-wise about 120 miles, pull them in. Then they went down south along the Alabama border and pulled them in. All of this designed to dilute the voting power of Memphis, the black bloc vote.
Yes.
That is the most racist thing that I have seen in many years. Now, remember, I grew up riding on the back of the bus. My family was deeply involved in civil rights. My father was once president of the local NAACP. My mother marched in every march. We were always involved. I was in the youth NAACP. So my family has had a commitment to the movement ever since I was a child. So this is common ground for me. And we saw the successes. We saw the championships that we won. We saw Martin King on the National Mall in 1963 saying, "I have a dream." We saw that. We saw the effect after that. We saw some things that were bad happening all across the country. But we kept pushing. We kept pushing. People died. People died. People died. Little girls bombed in a Birmingham church. Civil rights workers shot and buried in Mississippi, Philadelphia, Mississippi. So many. Viola Luz, a white lady who was tortured and killed for supporting the civil rights marches. The Freedom Bus Rides, part of my group, SNCC, Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, that went around the South getting people to vote. I lived through that. I saw all of that. I was a part of that. Wasn't a great part. I was just a foot soldier, but I was glad to do what I could do. But I never thought I would see this today. This is the most racist action that I have seen since I was a kid.
Yes.
And that's a shame.
Yes.
That's a shame. To rob Memphis of this ability to have a vote. And you would wonder why they're so worried about one. All of Tennessee is red except for this little part of Memphis. And
Yeah.
they couldn't stand that. They had to take that. They had to take that as well because they wanted to take that ninth congressional seat held by Steve Cohen. So they wanted to take that seat away.
Mm-hmm.
This is how desperate they are. And it's all based on pure racism. And let me warn you, if you try to be sophisticated and think of it any other way, if you try to put some political, economic kind of social mess on it, you are lost. You are lost in space.
Lost.
No,
Very
no, it
lost.
is pure racism. They
Yes.
won't say it. It is pure, unadulterated racism. That's what it is. And they're doing it, and they're not even ashamed to be doing it. And it is just pathetic. On the Hill
Yeah.
the other day, we had people arrested. We had people challenging stuff. Bishop, you have a picture of Justin Pearson and Martin King. Can
Yes,
we
sir.
put that up? Because I think that's very interesting. Look at
Yes.
this picture. Now, just pause on this. This
Yes.
is 2026 on the left. Justin Pearson,
Just a
literally
couple
with his
days.
brother. His brother's being arrested, and Justin's with him by Tennessee state troopers. On the right is Martin King, in I believe that's Montgomery, being arrested by Alabama Montgomery policemen.
It is.
Now that's 1958 to 2026. So
What's changed?
nothing has changed really.
Mhm.
What I'm saying is, and it's all because of Donald Trump.
Mhm.
He sprung the Durham. Who let the dogs out? He did. He let them out. He loosed them. He freed them. He gave them a free lance to be fully blown racist again. So there is no shame.
Mhm.
There's no embarrassment. They
Mhm.
openly are doing racist things. And you might ask why? Because they're in control. Martin King once said this, and let me point this out. Martin King used to say that at one time he thought that there was some goodness in all white people that meant that all white people couldn't possibly be racist.
Mm.
But then in 1968, Martin changed just before he died in his book, his last book. He said he's thinking different now.
Yeah.
There's something in the DNA of white America,
Mhm.
a superiority gene
Mhm.
that is there. It's dormant in some, it's active in others, but it's there.
Mhm.
A gene that says that I am superior as a white person and I deserve my white privilege and America should be a white nation. That's what white nationalism is, by the way.
Yeah.
And Martin came to that conclusion. And Martin was a man who always looked for the best in people. He always looked for the good in people as a child of God, as a preacher of the gospel.
Mhm.
Martin was always concerned with trying to find the best of humanity.
Yeah.
And he really thought that, but as we went on in time, we realized that some people are racist and don't even know they're racist. They do racist things and don't know they're racist. Then
Oh,
there
yeah.
are others who do racist things now and don't care that you know that they're racist. So we are in a troubled time. And the other side of the coin is what's hurting us the most is my people are destroyed for a lack of knowledge.
That's Bible.
Hosea 4:6.
Mhm.
So many of our people today, because they have not lived in a struggle for justice and have enjoyed freedoms that were fought for by my generation and the generation before me, they don't know struggle. They don't have a struggle conscience.
Mhm.
So they have not studied the history, nor do they know the history. So people are asking right now in Memphis, Tennessee, well, what does all of this mean? Redistricting. What is that? What is redistricting? And they not understanding what it means to us. And then we still got, excuse me, very ignorant people going around saying your vote doesn't count. And I said today in a text, I said it in a post today, that anyone who says to our people that your vote doesn't count is a traitor to the civil rights movement. You are
Yes.
a traitor to all the people that died, that marched, that cried, that bled for you to have the right to vote. And you're going to go around telling folk your vote don't count. Well, do the math. Math is simple.
Yeah.
Two people versus one, two people win. It's very simple.
Yeah.
So we understand that we are in a situation now where we've got to educate our people about what's going on. So I have a piece here by a man that I admire a lot, Dr. Henry Louis Gates, one of the greatest history teachers of the world out of Harvard University. And I'm going to share these things with you. And like I said, I hope you hit a share button right now so other people can see what I'm going to show you, because we need to educate. We need to teach our people our history and what's going on, how we got to where we are today. why we are where we are today. Ty, if you don't mind, let's put that piece up with Henry Louis Gates.
Nearly a century after the end of the Civil War and the dawn of Reconstruction, African Americans still found themselves fighting for their basic rights as citizens. The modern civil rights movement in the mid-20th century finally secured them.
Most historians actually date the start of the formal civil rights movement to Brown versus Board of Education. Brown really stokes the fervor of the nation. Then, in December of 1955, Rosa Parks decided as an act of resistance that she would not give up her seat to a white man on the bus.
Rosa Parks' deliberate act of resistance led to a bus boycott that thrust into the limelight a young preacher with a PhD. He would become one of the movement's most charismatic leaders. His name was the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.
One of the most iconic moments is the March on Washington in 1963, led by Martin Luther King Jr.
200,000 people converge on the nation's capital to rally for civil rights. They come united in one cause.
One day right now in Alabama, little black boys and black girls will be able to join hands with little white boys and white girls as sisters and brothers. I have a dream today.
This becomes visualized on the news and begins to change the way that Americans are starting to think about the civil rights movement.
As the civil rights movement attained greater visibility, it was often met with increased brutality and violence. Yet in the midst of so much sacrifice and heartbreak, the work of civil rights activists began to bear fruit.
In 1964, President Lyndon Johnson signs the Civil Rights Act of '64, and that's designed to desegregate businesses and government employment. And then in 1965, President Johnson signs the Voting Rights Act of '65.
The passage of the Voting Rights Act was a monumental victory for African Americans. Tragically, just 3 years after it was passed, Dr. King would be assassinated. Many feel looking back that the movement died that day. But in fact, the movement took on new forms and continued. And it must continue today as important victories such as the Voting Rights Act are under attack.
Until we deal with the fact that the backlash is often made possible not just by the other side growing in power, but by those who claim to care about equality losing their own resolve. There will be moments of this cycle happening over and over again.
Well, I hope you got the point of that. That's a great piece by Henry Louis Gates, and it gives us some groundwork to understand. And Bishop, I think this is important that we still have to teach. We have to teach our people. They took African American history out of the schools, and we're not getting enough education to our children about our history, where we have come from, how we got where we are. And we're in the shape today that we are in today. People are asking what's wrong, what's the matter. And we've got to go through this process now of trying to explain to them what has happened to us and why it is so critical to us. They are not going to stop at this redistricting. Believe me, they're not. There are already bills. For instance, there's a state senator in Louisiana who's trying to pass a bill forbidding interracial marriages in Louisiana again. Now, we haven't had a bill against interracial marriage in probably 50, 60, 70 years, but they're trying to do that again. Also, in the Alabama State House, there is a request that businesses be allowed to practice segregation. You saw on the video that in the 1964 Civil Rights Act, segregation was made illegal. Well, whereas Trump has struck down both the Civil Rights Act and the Voting Rights Act, segregation could become legal again. In other words, businesses could practice segregation without penalty. That's the next step. And that's going to happen. It's coming. Believe me, it's coming. People would just be able to put a sign up that says white only again. And I thought I'd never see that when I was a kid. Again, I saw signs over the water fountain, colored, white, white, colored back entrance. I remember the Melco Theater, which is now the Orpheum. We wanted to see a movie. The black people had to go upstairs in the balcony. White people went down on the floor. We had So many things that we had to overcome. And here we are back again, square one, all over again. Why? Because a president has really proven his vitriol toward African Americans and people of color in general, not only black, but brown and yellow and red. He has shown his propensity to do anything he can to make sure that the white man is in control of everything. This again goes back to white nationalism. It also goes to white Christian nationalism, what me and Bishop Brooks talked about in the previous podcast, that white Christian nationalism is the counterfeit Christianity that wants to suggest, listen to this now, they want to suggest that if Jesus were alive on the earth today, he would be on their side, meaning that they believe that Jesus would be a bigot, that Jesus would be a racist. But the ridiculousness of this is that they have forgotten that Jesus came to earth as a Jew.
Yeah.
I don't know how they got past that. He came as a member of an oppressed people and were being oppressed by Europeans. They were being oppressed by the Romans. Come on now.
Yeah.
Jesus came at a time when Jews, Hebrews, were oppressed by Roman occupation. So I don't know how they could figure for all who Jesus was, that he was European, when we know he was African and Asian ancestry, but I'll do that on another show at another time. But right now, the point is, this all goes back to the President of the United States and how he has orchestrated this racism that's going on now, and is so blatant that it is so forceful now that many of us in shock, our people are in shock, because they woke up not ever dreaming that it would be like this again. Now, Bishop, I got one more piece I want to show, because this is the one I can connect to very touchingly myself. Selma, Alabama. As a freshman at Tennessee State University, Professor Mingo Scott, many people that went to Tennessee would all know Mingo Scott. He was a history professor at Tennessee State, very active in the civil rights movement. He was also a sort of mentor to members of SNCC, Student Underground Coordinating Committee, which I was a member. And he was rallying, getting students to go to Selma. And John Lewis, the late congressman who left just a moment or two ago, like just a couple months ago, was such a great leader. I want you to see this video, Ty, if you will, of John Lewis explaining what happened in Selma and why fighting for the right to vote was so important. Let's play that, Ty.
March 7, 1965, a group of us attempted to march from Selma to Montgomery, Alabama, to dramatize to the nation that people wanted to register to vote. One young African-American man had been shot and killed a few days earlier in an adjoining county called Perry County. This is in the Black Belt of Alabama, the home county of Mrs. Martin Luther King Jr., the home county of Mrs. Ralph Abernathy, the home county of Mrs. Andrew Young. And because of what happened to him, we made a decision to march. In Selma, Alabama in 1965, only 2.1% of blacks of voting age were registered to vote. The only place you could attempt to register was to go down to the courthouse. You had to pass the so-called literacy test. And they were told people over and over again that they couldn't pass the literacy test. On one occasion, a man was asked to count the number of bubbles in a bar of soap. On another occasion, a man was asked to count the number of jelly beans in a jar. There were African-American lawyers, doctors, teachers, housewives, college professors, flunking the so-called literacy test. And we had to change that. So we sought to march. And we got to the top of the bridge. We saw a sea of blue, Alabama state troopers. And we continued to walk. We came within hearing distance of the state troopers. And a man identified himself and said, "I'm Major John Cloud of the Alabama state troopers. This is an unlawful march. You will not be allowed to continue. I give you 3 minutes to disperse and return to your church." And one of the young people walking with me, leading the march, a man by the name of Jose Williams, who was on the staff of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., said, "Major, give us a moment to kneel and pray." And the major said, "Troopers, advance." And you saw these guys putting on their gas masks. They came toward us, beating us with nightsticks and bullwhips, trampling us with horses. I was hit in the head by a state trooper with a nightstick. I had a concussion at the bridge. My legs went out from under me. I felt like I was going to die. I thought I saw death. All these many years later, I don't recall how I made it back across that bridge to the church. But as I got back to the church is full to capacity. More than 2,000 people outside trying to get in to protest what had happened on the bridge. And someone asked me to say something to the audience. And I stood up and said something like, I don't understand it. How President Johnson can send troops to Vietnam, but cannot send troops to Selma, Alabama to protect people who only desires to register to vote. The next thing I knew, I'd been admitted to a local hospital in Selma.
Explain that moment where you decided to move forward, because I don't think the history we learn records those small acts that are actually gargantuan acts of bravery. Talk about, I mean, you saw the weapons the police arrayed against you. What propelled you forward, Congressmember Lewis?
Well, my mother, my father, my grandparents, my uncles and aunts, and people all around me had never registered to vote. I've been working all across the South. The state of Mississippi had a black voting age population of more than 450,000, and only about 16,000 were registered to vote. On that day, we didn't have a choice. I think we have been tracked down by what I call the spirit of history, and we couldn't turn back. We had to go forward. We became like trees planted by the rivers of water. We were anchored, and I thought we would die. I first thought we would be arrested and go to jail, but I thought it was a real possibility that some of us would die on that bridge that day after the confrontation occurred. I thought it was the last protest for me, but somehow, in some way, you have to keep going. You go to a hospital, you go to a doctor's office, you get mended, and you get up and try it again.
So what was the next act you engaged in?
Well, we continued to organize, continued to try to get people registered. We went to federal court and testified to get an injunction against Governor George Wallace and Alabama state troopers. And the federal court said that we had a right to march from Selma to Montgomery. President Johnson spoke to the nation and condemned the violence in Selma, introduced the Voting Rights Act, and that night he made one of the most meaningful speeches that any American president had made in modern time on the whole question of civil rights and voting rights. He condemned the violence over and over again. And near the end of the speech, he said, and we shall overcome. We shall overcome. We call it the We Shall Overcome speech. I was sitting next to Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. as we listened to President Johnson. And I looked at Dr. King. Tears came down his face. He started crying. And we all cried a little. But we heard the president saying, we shall overcome. And Dr. King said, we will make it from Selma to Montgomery, and the Voting Rights Act will be passed. 2 weeks later, more than 10,000 of us, people from all over America, started walking from Selma to Montgomery. And by the time we made it to Montgomery 5 days later, there were almost 30,000 black and white citizens, Protestant, Catholic, Jewish, men, women, young people. It was like a holy march. And the Congress debated the act, passed it, and on August 6, 1965, President Lyndon Johnson signed it into law.
Well, I hope that helped you a lot in history to know that. Bishop, this is why you have to forgive me that I get so angry. And I know I'm a pastor, I know that, but I'm human. I get so angry when I hear people talk about our vote doesn't count and doesn't matter, when I know that history of what we went through to get that right to vote. My grandmother, growing up in Greenwood, Mississippi, third grade education, she couldn't read and write. She tried to vote many times, but they wouldn't let her vote. She wasn't able to vote until we moved her to Memphis, Tennessee, and I took her to her first time to vote in an election. I drove her, and she put on her best Sunday clothes and had her purse and her white gloves. Many of you don't know, back then the ladies used to wear white gloves. And I took her to the voting booth, and I never saw anyone as proud or as happy as that woman was on that day that she was able to go and vote. Now, this is why I want you to understand why what Bill Lee has done and the state of Tennessee done is so horribly wrong that they're trashing the Voting Rights Act, according to Mr. Trump. They're trashing it. They're trying to put us back into a period in a time where we won't have the right to vote again. He's taking away our enfranchisement as American citizens, trying to put us back to second-class citizenship. They're trying to walk us back slowly into second-class citizenship. So this is the situation that we are in right now today, Bishop. So I wanted to make sure that I get that point across. This is why I applaud everyone that's out there fighting hard against this. I saw our friend Antonio Parkinson talk about succeeding from the state. If that's a possibility, maybe look into it. I saw Justin Pearson out there and his brother getting arrested. I see our people out there struggling, fighting for our rights. I see that so clearly. And we're going to have to do some fighting here, not physical fighting, no, but we've got to fight the way we can fight. And that is through the courts and whatever other means that we might have. And there may be some other means we might have to fight. I wouldn't want to even mention it here now, but there may be some things we can do in the future. But Bishop, I just thought I'd share that with you. And I hope I got the point across, Bishop. I hope I got the point across.
You got the point across perfectly. And to be honest with you, you could have very well just went ahead and finished out the show, to be honest with you, because of the experiences that you've had. You were there, you were there for the civil rights movement. You lived through it, you saw it, and now you can bring us up. So there's a wealth of knowledge, of course, that you have that's there. My generation, however, I'm 53. I'm on the outskirts of the civil rights movement. Did not experience what you experienced, and my grandmother and my grandfather. I did not experience that. My parents they grew up in it as teenagers. My father once told me that it was so bad, and maybe you even remember this yourself, that growing up in Memphis, if you live in Memphis, you know where Nars Road is, and then Nars will go to Brooks Road. Well, that's where in the 50s and 60s that black children had to stop right there at Brooks Road. And I know a lot of you that may be out of town may not know what we're talking about, but the reason why is because Elvis lived on Elvis Presley at the time. And if they crossed that line, there was going to be a serious problem with our black children. So Memphis has been kind of a history, of course, full of racism. It's the South. But on today, what I wanted to share with you guys briefly, and I'm going to turn it back over to Dr. Adkins, is that I'm amazed by the speed of all of this happening. This did not take long. The redistricting that we've seen over the years, that it takes years to pass bills in Washington, D.C. This thing took days. And when you say that, you got to wonder, okay, why is that the case? And I think that we need to all point back. I heard Dr. Adkins say about Governor Lee, and that is true. However, what needs to be understood about what we're going through now is that President Trump has tag team partners. He does. He has tag team partners. And let me say this very quickly before I say it. I hope you guys are sharing. And those of you that are watching this, or whatever day you're watching this on, I hope you share it, whatever day you're watching it. Donald Trump has the Supreme Court. Those are his tag team partners. That's the beginning of it. This is what started all of this. There was a vote made. Final count was 63. But here's the part that we can't go back on. During his first term, because of our Supreme Court justices who passed away, Donald Trump appointed 3 Supreme Court justices into the office of Supreme Court. In other words, they are his. I mean, I can't say it better than that.
No, that's right.
If they didn't match his criteria, they would not be Supreme Court justices.
Well, the point is, Bishop, is that I don't call them justices now. I call them injustices.
Yes, sir.
We got 6 injustices on the Supreme Court, 3 justices. You know, a Supreme Court judge is sworn in to uphold and protect the Constitution of the United States of America. But these justices have sworn their loyalty to Donald Trump, not to the Constitution.
Yes.
This is where the problem comes.
Yes.
They are not trying to protect the letter of the law, which is the Constitution. They're protecting the will of Donald Trump.
Yes.
This is leading to a totalitarian state. This is leading to a dictatorship. We're headed down a path that we don't want to go. And yes, it is very familiar because it is very similar to 1933 Germany. Whether you like it or not, go study your history. You'll see Adolf Hitler had a plan called Make Germany Great Again. And here we are with President Trump making America white again, make America great again, which meant making America white again.
Yeah.
And Bishop, the shame is that there is a disdain now in America for the Constitution because the Constitution gives equal rights to citizens. So the people that are in control and power don't really want the Constitution any longer. They want to get rid of it because they do not want to guarantee people the right to vote. That's what happens to us in Tennessee. They have wiped out our representation. You know, the Revolutionary War started because of taxation without representation. Yeah. And right now, we don't have representation. So, Bishop, that's the situation that we're in right now. It's a bad situation. Like I said, I never thought I'd see us back in that again today, that we'd be back in something like this again today. But it's here. It's real. You better wake up, smell the coffee, and realize that it's real. And it's not only bad now, but it is going to get worse. It is going to get worse. They're not going to stop just here. They're going to keep pushing ahead. We have no government agencies to protect people on the job, no EEOC, no environmental protection. We don't have anything any longer to protect us. There's no fair housing. There is nothing out there that's going to say you got to treat people right and treat people fairly. All of that's being washed away. So we have to wake up and realize that and understand where we are, because we've got to go into action on many, many, many different levels to combat what's going on, Bishop.
With those Supreme Court justices, it gave those appointments that he gave. And one thing that also needs to be understood, that when you are appointed to the Supreme Court, it is a lifetime appointment. And so these justices or injustices are there unless they retire or they die. So, of course, there are justices or injustices that have been there for years and years and years. And with this ruling that they did, there's no middle ground for us to stand on as far as it's no gray area. You're either on the right side or you're on the wrong side. You can't straddle the fence on this type of stuff. Either you're in or you're out. And the amazing thing to me is that, forget the 3 that Donald Trump appointed in 2017, Neil Gorsuch. In 2018, it was Brett Kavanaugh. And then in 2020, it was Amy Coney Barrett. Those are the injustices, that's what I want to say, that are there. Who has his views. That's the only way they were going to be able to get nominated.
Yeah.
Now, but that's not counting all of them. The one that blows me away is, hey, I'm here to get in trouble tonight. The one that blows me, the one that's been sitting there that has benefited from the civil rights movement. Y'all know what I'm talking about.
The one who was to replace Thurgood Marshall. The one who was to replace the greatest civil rights lawyer of our history, Thurgood Marshall, who won the case Brown versus Board of Education, Topeka, Kansas.
Yes.
He was put in to replace Thurgood.
We're talking about the one and only Clarence Thomas, whose views are well known.
Yeah.
And his skin is darker than mine. Let me just say that. And it is a slap in the face from which these landmark people from the civil rights movement, that's the only way he can get into the door where he is now. And he knows what this means.
Well, he used every door of civil rights legislation available to him to get where he is. That's the point. He climbed that ladder, every door from Pell Grants all the way up. Everything that he accomplished through the Civil Rights Act. Then when he gets to become a Supreme Court justice, marries who he marries or whatever, I ain't gonna get into that.
Yeah.
Then all of a sudden he becomes the righteous justice of bigotry in America against his own people.
Yes. Unbelievable. And through his tag team partners, it filters down. Yeah. Governor Lee, and as Dr. Adkins has said, this is going to be all across the country. Mm-hmm. They're doing it. And as far as, for those that do not know, and I'm quite sure everyone knows, the national things that you're seeing now is from Memphis, Tennessee. Mm-hmm. It's from Memphis. So let me give you for those of you that are here in Memphis, please understand that District 9, Memphis, people that live in Whitehaven, is now shared with Brentwood, Tennessee.
Right outside of Nashville.
It's unreal. So this
ridiculous.
Is District 9. So the obvious goal was, obviously, because we all know here in Memphis, District 9, predominantly African-American, that is the vote of the African-American, now will be shared by the majority white population that is all the way from Memphis all the way up to Brentwood, Tennessee. So if you know anything about Tennessee, the further you go out east, the more we are not there. Let me just make it real plain. So now we're obviously there probably would be maybe white representation for District 9 or whatever they may call it from there. But here's the thing, y'all. Here's the difference. When my grandparents and maybe your great-grandparents, they had people, they had dogs and water hoses put on them.
Oh, yeah.
Today's symbolism of the dogs and the water hoses is the power of the ink pen. Mm-hmm. That's the power. The power is the Supreme Court justice putting things in law. When you filter it down, people like Governor Lee, they put it on the ink pen, and that is their dogs and water hoses now. That's all they're doing. They get to act like they don't know. If you've seen, some of you've seen it, I know you have. When the question was asked, are you familiar that Shelby County is all African American? They say, I'm not aware of the demographics. Are you kidding me? Come on, man. So we're having an issue with that now. But it is all pointed back, of course, to the president. This same president who in the 1970s was showing racial things about black people trying to get into apartments. This same president that tried to kill everything, as far as the Central Five guy. I mean, this guy, his resume says that he is racial, is leaning toward that. And unfortunately for us, and I'm just going to go ahead and get a little trouble here before I show my little video. The unfortunate part is that we're living in a time now where black people don't even know when they're being insulted.
No.
We're living in a time now where they don't even understand that they're being condemned, and they don't even understand. Matter of fact, they're siding with it. I'm quite sure on some of your timelines, if you're in social media, you'll see how many black people are justifying by saying, listen, they're just trying to make sure that it's not the basis of your voting. It's not racial. That's all they did.
Because that's what they're being told. That's what they're being told. Those that are members, especially of predominantly white churches, that's what they're being told. And they're buying into the program. They're drinking that Kool-Aid, and they're accepting that, and they're sitting there and right in the midst of people who are doing things to try to destroy every value that they have as American citizens in this country, and they don't even know it. They're sitting there. It's like doing high fives with a rattlesnake.
Yes.
They're getting bit and don't even know they're getting bit.
Yes. Let's do a little homework. Those of you that are in the chat, this is your homework tonight, if you don't mind. I've done it already. I want you guys to pull up Project 25, and I need you to put a check by everything that has happened. You will be amazed.
Yeah.
To know how much. And this is the same Project 25 plan that the president, of course, said, I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know. I don't have a clue. I don't have an idea. But I want you to see this video, and I don't know exactly when I'm gonna stop it. It's a long one, but I'm not gonna play all of it. I want you to see this video because I want you to see the systematic plan that has happened ever since President Trump has come in office. Just listen for yourself. Put it up, Ty. She's coming with it in just a second. Y'all ain't gonna believe this. Just check it out.
But on the issue of race, on the treatment of African Americans specifically, even being terrible at what they're doing has still proven to be disastrous for our country. And it is, in part, the posturing from the White House and the president. That is stuff that validates and excites the worst bigots in the country, and that is consequential. But it's more than that, too. We are now about 16 months into what has been from day one a concerted and intense targeting of Black Americans, specifically by this president and by this administration. On his first full day in office, he proclaims war on diversity efforts, not only in government, but in any institution in the country over which he can exert leverage, everything from schools and universities to law firms to private businesses of every stripe. He then immediately started firing some of the highest profile Black public officials in the whole U.S. government, seemingly regardless of any other thing about them. I mean, right away, we get the firing of the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, Charles C.Q. Brown. We get the firing of the Librarian of Congress, Carla Hayden. And then it's Gwynne Wilcox from the National Labor Relations Board. And then it's Robert Primus, the chair of the Surface Transportation Board. And then it's Alvin Brown from the NTSB. And then it's Peggy Carr, the head of the National Center for Education Statistics. And then it's Willie Phillips from FERC, from the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission. And then it's Lisa Cook from the Federal Reserve Board of Governors, and on and on and on. When Trump and his top political donor, Elon Musk, then started just lopping off huge swaths of the federal government to disastrous practical effect, the largest and most egregious cuts targeted federal agencies that employed a disproportionate number of Black employees. Reporter Erica Green wrote about this a few months ago for The Times, noting that nothing had moved backwards in the federal government for Black Americans this quickly or this far in over 100 years. Since Woodrow Wilson came in 1912 and resegregated the federal workforce. Quote, Black employees were fired or demoted to lower level jobs, relegated to separate and inferior lunchrooms and other facilities, and accused of making white women feel unsafe. Those who remained were humiliated. A Black worker in the Postal Service was surrounded by screens so white workers would not have to look at him. Another employee had a cage built around him to separate him from his white counterparts. A clerk in the Treasury Secretary's office was assigned to rewrite all correspondence to address Black employees by their first names. The way Trump addressed the Librarian of Congress, Carla Hayden, by her first name when he crowed publicly about firing her for no reason.
Let me stop there.
Well,
so I mean, it is obvious, y'all. You see the systematic movement of what Donald Trump's agenda is no question. Those are facts. What you see, and from DEI, and when we talk about what we're talking about now, about we used to have this term about suppressing the vote. Well, it's changed now. They know we can vote, but the way that they've done it now is they're trying to dilute the black vote. That's the new term now. They're trying to dilute it by what? The power of the ink pen, by including another whole demographic that doesn't really have anything to do with us. And they are, you can vote. We're not saying we can't vote. Of course we can vote. We can do that. But they're making the board unbalanced, and that's what we're doing tonight.
Let me say this, Bishop. Let me say what they're doing is this. Trump is trying to overcome the midterm elections of November.
Yes.
Which he feels that he may end up facing a Democratic majority in the Senate and a Democratic majority in the House, which is his worst nightmare. This is why we have to vote, why it's so important. But not only are the Republicans not finished yet, what they're going to do is they're going to try to outlaw early voting. They're going to try to outlaw absentee voting. They're going to try to make voting as cumbersome as difficult for you, maybe ask for 2 or 3 IDs, when most people only have one really facial ID, which is a driver's license. They have plans to say that if you're in line at the poll, before the poll closes, you can vote, but if you get in line after, you can't vote. And then some are saying, if you're in line and the poll closes, the vote ends there and you don't get to vote still.
Exactly.
They're going to do everything that they can in the midterm elections to make sure that Donald Trump does not face a Democratic majority in the Senate and in the House. This is what this is really all about. And this is why we must vote. We must register to vote. Your vote still counts. Even in Tennessee, it still counts. Yes, it does count.
Yes.
We must vote. We have local elections. We have 2 countywide races. We have a county mayor race where there's a Republican against a black candidate in Mikhail Lowry. We have a sheriff's race where there is a Republican candidate against Buckner, Chief Buckner. And these races are important. We must vote. What we can do is keep control of Memphis. And I want to say this, let's make this perfectly clear. We have tons of white citizens who are with us. We have tons of white citizens who are working with us every single day. God bless them. Thank the Lord for them. And many of them are all across the state. They're not as easily seen, but they are there. They are there. I've talked to a couple today, and they are. So we must recognize that fact. Thank God for that fact. Thank God that once again we have people of goodwill that are not black that are with us as well. So, but Bishop, I just want to, if we're going to work to a close,
okay.
I'm deeply concerned as to what do we do now. The most important piece we have right now is educating our brothers and sisters about what's happening. That's what we've tried to do here tonight. We've got to educate. Ty, if you don't mind, put that screen up for me that we did today. People have been asking me, well, Pastor Adkins, what should we do? What should we do? What should we do? No, not that one. The other one on education piece, Ty, if you don't mind. They want to know what should be our strategy. Well, we've got to build strategy. That's going to take time right now. But what we can do right now is we can educate our people. We can go to the pulpits, pastors. We can teach our congregations. We can lead our congregations. We can get them ready to understand what's going on so that the people can know our pastors must lead the way. This was what our victory was all about in the civil rights struggle. We had pastors who were unafraid, full of courage, and went to the pulpit on Sundays and told the people what was happening, what we should do, where we should go, where we should vote. These things are necessary even still today for us right now, that we must be willing to recognize the fact that so many of our people are just unaware of what's happening. And we've had so much, I don't know how to say this, Bishop, but we've had so much time having fun till we forgot to take care of our business and be serious. The Republicans have been plotting these moves for years. Project 2025 was actually written in 2019.
Yeah.
It was written in 2019, Project 2025. So that's how long they've had it. They're playing chess, we're playing checkers.
There you go.
And that's not good. That's not good at all. So we have to recognize the fact now. So people asking me, well, Pastor, what do we need to do? Here it is. People asking what's to do. We need to educate those who do not understand what's happening. Our pulpits need to be sounding boards. They need to be sounding boards for our people. Knowledge brings empowerment. Truth brings transformation. Now, this is our moment. This is our mission. Education, teach the truth, share knowledge, build understanding. Stronger pulpits, Reverend, Pastor, Elder, equip leaders, empower voices, speak with courage, community unity. Let's stand together. We got too many different organizations trying to do too many things. Let's get together, put all these organizations into one, support one another, build our future together. Advocacy, use our voices, demand justice, create change. And if we need to march, we're going to march. If we need to march all the way to Nashville again, we will. Faith in action. Love our neighbors, serve with purpose, lead with faith, be informed, be involved, be the change. That's what we've got to do. So I put that out here today because people kept asking me, what should we do? What should we do? And this is my recommendation. What I think we ought to do, this has come from my experience in the movement that I'm sharing with everyone today. But we've got to educate our people, especially. So many of our folks just don't understand what's happening. We're so busy watching everything but what we should be watching. And I know people don't like to watch the news, but you won't know what's happening in your world if you don't watch the news. And we've got to help people understand. So that's desperate. Bishop, I thank you. As always, I appreciate you so much and everything that you do for us, not only Greater Money, but here in this broadcast. I just thank the Lord for you. I thank the Lord for my daughter, Ty, who produces this show. We are so thankful for the Lord giving us voice and giving time. I said in a sermon, Bishop, you might remember, I really feel that the Lord has kept me alive
Wow.
this time right now.
Yeah.
Not meaning I'm special. No. Please don't get me wrong. Don't get me wrong. I just feel that the Lord has kept me. He's kept me here, and I'm able, and I'm still active, and I thank God for that. We have a lot to do now to regain the freedoms that are being stolen from us, and we're only going to be able to do it when we stick together and come together. And we must separate ourselves from the ignorance that's in our community that for whatever reason refuses to believe what's happening is bad for us. We must free ourselves from Black Republicans who, for whatever reason, don't see the damage and harm that's being done to us. We've got to free ourselves from the ignorance of people who just don't care about anything. But those of us who care, those of us who are concerned, those of us who want change, we must stick together. We must work together. We must come together. We must build together. Listen, when the civil rights struggle was going on, everybody was in with the civil rights struggle. Don't dream that. Don't think that. No, it wasn't. When we had Black pastors that criticized Dr. King. Every time Dr. King went to a city, there was always a few Black pastors who called him an instigator and agitator, didn't want to see him there. So don't think that we had it all just completely unified back then. We did not. We just had to push on in spite of those who were not with us. We had to push on even when they didn't understand why we were pushing on. We had to move on in spite of them because they didn't understand. We had whole denominations who were opposed to the civil rights movement back then, whole denominations. So we have to push on ahead. We're not going to get everybody to agree. Everybody's not going to be on board. So stop thinking that we have to have, no. If just all of us that are of like mind, like heart, and a willingness to strive for our freedoms and our rights, if we just come together, we'll make it. So Bishop, I think that we've done our job tonight. I think that we've done the best that we absolutely could. I think those that have tuned in, I hope that you share it. This will be online. You can see it later. Tell people to go back and watch it. It's going to be there forever. So just go. It's on YouTube. It's on Facebook. It's on Podbean. It's there. So Bishop, I'll leave it to you to close out.
Thank you, all of you that have been in the chat. Thank you, all of you, for all your comments. We thank you for your contribution to it, and we weren't able to recognize you personally, but we all see them. Thank, of course, for Ty for producing on this. I just want to add this last thing real quick before we close out. There's one other thing that we have to do. We got to get more people that have our views with the ink pen. We got to have we have, because the ink pen is changing our world. They're not their power is because they can write down laws and stuff. We got to get people in place, whether they're white or black, that has our views in mind, because this thing is going rather fast and something has to be done rather quickly. Listen, we'll be back.
Yeah.
Trust us, we're coming again. We'll be here, and then, of course, our job, and we took it upon ourselves that we're trying our best to educate our people for what's coming ahead. And also remember, we're both preachers. The Bible still is true. Let's preach for maybe about 20 seconds. If God be for us,
that's right.
He's more than the world against us.
Yeah.
So let's keep that. The Bible still is true, and we're gonna win. I promise you. This is just a battle, but we ain't lost the war. We haven't lost it. But let me say one more thing, and I promise I'm done. You know, the scripture says that the battle is not yours, it's the Lord's. So, today is different. That's true. There are some battles that we have to fight.
Yeah.
We got to get up off our butts. Let me go ahead and say it. We got to get up off our butts and we got to get into the fight. We just can't wait on the Lord. No.
We can't use prayer as an excuse not to do anything.
We just can't pray. No, we can't just pray now. Yeah, and you hear two preachers say that. Prayer, oh God, Apostle, sometimes, oh Lord, prayer does not always work. You got to have some faith with it to move. You got to move now. So we have to do some things, and that's what we want to leave you with. Thank you all you guys for hanging with us. We're going to get out of here. We're coming back. Y'all take it easy. This has been the Up My People podcast.